Hey, welcome back. I am Mr. Shrum, and we are about to look at the next anatomy physiology lesson. And this is an introduction to the respiratory system. And this system is very important. You use it every day to breathe and live your life. So here we go. We're going to look at the primary functions of the respiratory system. So, the main functions are ventilation and, of course, respiration. Ventilation is breathing. So that is moving air into and out of your lungs. Respiration is the exchange of gases across a membrane. So it's a little different. But functionally, the respiratory system is divided into two zones. We have the conducting zone and the respiratory zone. The conducting zone structures, the zone is formed by structures that sustain a pathway for air to flow in and out of the lungs. And those structures include the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. So here we go. The respiratory zone is formed by structures that permit respiration to occur. Those structures in the respiratory zone include bronchioles, alveolar ducts, and alveoli. First of all, we have the nose in the conducting zone. The nose warms, humidifies, and filters the air as it enters the body. The nose is composed of an external portion and an internal portion. The external portion of the nose protrudes from the face and is covered with skin. So go look in a mirror. First thing you notice probably is your face. Well, your face, usually your eyes or nose, since it's just right there. And the nose is supported by a pair of nasal bones, which form the bridge of the nose. The distal portion of the nose is comprised of pliable cartilage. So if you feel the tip of your nose, it's very squishy. That's all cartilage. Septal cartilage separates the nose sagittally into left and right passageways. So that, yeah, it's a very interesting thing the nose is. And then you have an internal portion of your nose, and that is the nasal cavity for air to flow through. It's composed of several facial and cranial bones like the frontal bone, the nasal bone, ethmoid bone, sphenoid bone, and maxillary bones. The internal portion of the nose is covered with cilia. And cilia are little hairs that line the nasal cavity, and they trap microorganisms as the air passes through the nasal cavity. So you have tiny little hairs in your nose, and they're supposed to be there. Within certain bones of the skull, there are paranasal sinuses. Paranasal sinuses are open spaces that help warm and moisten inspired air. So inspired air is air that you are taking in. And these sinuses also give resonance to the voice. There are 4 pairs of paranasal sinuses: maxillary sinuses, frontal sinuses, sphenoidal sinuses, and ethmoid sinuses. The paranasal sinuses are lined with cilia and mucus. The sinuses then drain through ducts of the nasal cavity and then out through the nose. So fun stuff. So we looked at the nose. Next step is the pharynx in the conducting zone. The air then passes through the pharynx. It's commonly known as the throat. And it provides passage for both air and food. The pharynx also connects the nasal and oral cavity. So you have the nasal right here, and you have the oral cavity, and then wham bam, they meet in the pharynx. The pharynx is divided into 3 sections. We have the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. So nasopharynx towards the nose, oropharynx towards your oral cavity, your mouth. And then by your larynx, you have the laryngopharynx. That first one, the nasopharynx, is the upper section of the pharynx. And it's located directly posterior to the nasal cavity and above the soft palate. Within the nasopharynx is a collection of lymphatic tissue called the adenoids or pharyngeal tonsils. The oropharynx is the middle section of the pharynx located directly posterior to the base of the tongue and to the level of the hyoid bone. Within the oropharynx is a collection of lymphatic tissue called the palatine tonsils. The laryngopharynx is the lower section of the pharynx, located from the hyoid bone to the larynx. It opens into the esophagus and larynx, so down here. Food is sent posteriorly into the esophagus, and then air passes anteriorly into the larynx. So your larynx, air goes down in front, and then food is sent to the back into the esophagus. Fun stuff. So after the pharynx, you have the larynx in the conducting zone. The air leaves the pharynx through a narrow opening called the glottis and enters the larynx. So here we have your voice box. The larynx is known as the voice box. Sound is produced in the larynx as air moves past the vocal cords, and that causes them to vibrate. This vibration generates sound. And it's shaped like a triangular shield, and it contains clusters of cartilage. And 3 of those cartilages are the thyroid cartilage, the epiglottis, and the cricoid cartilage. Here we have the thyroid cartilage. It's the largest cartilage within the larynx. A portion of the thyroid cartilage, the laryngeal prominence, is commonly referred to as the Adam's apple. Then you have the epiglottis. It's shaped more like a teardrop. It hangs down to block the glottis, so you can see that here. The laryngeal opening during swallowing. When you swallow, the larynx elevates and moves forward, while the epiglottis moves backwards to cover the opening. This blocks food from entering the larynx. Oops. Sorry about that. I changed my screen for a second. We have this cartilage, and that's a ring that connects the thyroid and the trachea. You see that? The cricoid cartilage. Then lower we go into the conducting zone. You have the trachea. That is a tubular passageway from the larynx to the lungs. The trachea is about 4.5, 4.5 inches long and 1 inch in diameter. It is positioned anteriorly to the esophagus. The walls of the trachea are comprised of C-shaped rings of hyaline cartilage. This helps to keep the trachea permanently open. The trachea is lined with cilia as well, those tiny little hairs, and mucus to trap dust and foreign particles, which then is either swallowed or coughed up. Then we have the bronchi. At about the 5th thoracic vertebra, the trachea divides into right and left primary bronchi. And bronchi are 4 to 5 inches long, tubes that extend into the lungs. So these are 4 to 5 inch long tubes that extend into your lungs. You can see that here, those bronchi. Then once you're inside of the lungs, you have the bronchi continue to branch into little bronchioles. And bronchioles are microscopic branches of the bronchi that allow air to enter the alveoli. The alveoli. So in summary, we've learned about the conducting zone, the nose, the pharynx, the larynx, the trachea, the bronchi, and the bronchioles. Next time, we're going to look at the anatomy of the lungs themselves and the structure of the respiratory zone. And we'll talk about these 3 structures next time. So until next time, I'll see you guys later. Good luck with everything. Welcome to second semester, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.